Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar, The Inside Scoop on eVolve MEP's new licensing system. Thank you for spending some time with us today. This webinar is brought to you by eVolve MEP. My name is Madeline Casey, and I'm a marketing specialist here at eVolve, and I'll be the moderator today. Before we get started, just wanted to go over a few webinar housekeeping rules. We encourage you to take advantage of the fully customizable webinar console by clicking on the icons at the bottom of your screen. You can resize any of these widgets during the presentation. And don't forget to type your questions and comments into the Q&A widget throughout the presentation. We'll take time to answer your questions at the end of today's webinar. Please take a moment to introduce yourself with the system. You can also take a survey at any time during or after the webinar. This webinar is being recorded for your convenience. You will be receiving an email with the recording link for future reference. You can find eVolve MEP on social media to make meaningful connections, receive special offers, and stay up to date on the newest innovations. Also, be sure to visit our website, evolvemep.com, to see how we help improve profitability and visibility for trade contractors by aligning teams on a single platform. Now, I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters, Clay Freeman and Adam Heon. Clay is our Vice President of Product here at eVolve MEP and has some incredible insight and details to share with us about eVolve's new licensing system. And Adam is a product manager at eVolve MEP and spearheads the execution of software development and implementation for subcontractors across the country. We could not be more proud or fortunate to have these two on our team. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. And without further ado, Clay and Adam, take it away.
Thanks, Madeline. Let me switch over. Okay, Madeline, we see in the right view here.
Sorry, I meant to, yes.
Okay, great. Sorry. Wanted to make sure before we get going. Okay, so again, yeah, like Madeline said, thanks everyone for attending today. Adam and I wanted to do this session now to explain the new licensing system and the admin module. What's going on with this whole web platform effort. Not only the current state, but talk about some of the things that we're working on right now that will be available really soon, and to start to foreshadow a little bit about the future state. Also explain some of the reasons. And so as everyone on the call probably knows, we released this 5.4 version a little over a month ago, and it comes with this new web module, the admin web module, the design web module, and the whole Foresight product line, which includes a new licensing system. As some of you have experienced, the old licensing system was having some problems. It was misreporting who was logging in, and we made a couple of runs to fix that old technology, but we eventually decided we should just cut over to the new system that we had in development anyway. So we in order to make the dates before that licensing server started to really degrade, we did get in a bit of a hurry to get this new system out the door, and so there's some missing functionality that's needed to really have this thing work the way we intended it to work, that is being developed right now. So you've already seen one release come out a couple of weeks ago. Since we released 5.4, we updated the website, added quite a bit more functionality. You're about to see another one in 2 or 3 days, and there'll be another one a couple of weeks from now that will get us to a decent point of maturity. But the basic licensing system and admin system is working today. It's just going to be more functions to solve a few other use cases that's coming out, and we'll talk about that. So first of all, this Foresight system is intended to be a platform for all of our modules. Our desktop products like mechanical and electrical will start to become increasingly cloud connected, and we'll start to add additional modules. So certainly design is one of them. There's not a lot in design yet. There's just a few things related to understanding the department and the users that are assigned to the design departments, which different facilities that you have design departments in. But there'll be a lot more stuff coming. And there'll also be other modules that are intended to address processes downstream from design. We can't talk about those just yet, but in June, so approximately 6 or 7 weeks from now, we will start to talk about some of those downstream modules, and we will launch them at MEP Force this year. So this is a platform that's intended to support a much broader offering, but of course it'll be tightly connected into mechanical and to electrical. In addition to being a platform for our own modules, we believe customers will be developing in this system as well. It's completely modular. Everything that we've built on the cloud side is microservices with APIs that you can directly access. Everything that our front-end interface uses to communicate to the back end on the servers is an API that you'll be able to access directly, even to the ability to add new interface components into the system that are owned and created by your company. The same thing is true for third-party developers. We'll start supporting partners that directly plug into this platform and ecosystem. It's intended to allow you to self-administer the licenses. You weren't able to do that before. You had to call us every time you needed to make a change, but now you'll be able to log in and make those changes yourself. We've done a lot of work to try to make that easy to do, but we've got a lot more to do that'll make it easier and easier to manage that over time. More importantly, the admin module is intended to be the single source of truth, the place to manage the users, projects, departments, and licenses that kind of control how all the modules will work together in the future. So this is the central point of administration for the entire product line and the platform that will support customer and third-party products in the future. If we look at the primary goals for the module, again, it's those companies, projects, users, and licenses. It also extends to facilities and departments. And the focus is not just maintaining the list of these 6 types of objects, but to map the relationship between those. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Now, in addition to these objects that we need to manage and manage the relationships of, it also serves as our API framework. This is the primary system that controls how other parties will access the product and product line. And it includes the interface framework, which is a modular componentized interface framework. I'll talk a bit more about how that works as well. And the message center is a way to control eVolve to customer messaging, system to customer messaging, and also customer to customer messaging. It's not just an email system. We know you already have one of those. In the message center, we can actually include actions. So if somebody needs approval for doing something, we will embed actions inside of those messages. So you can just click a button and make a change in an easier way. To talk about the relationships, number one, we have a company, and a company has projects, a company has users. And so we have these 3 object types, and then we manage the relationship between those. We also manage the mapping between users and projects, and we'll talk more about that, some of the options that you have coming up in a few minutes. And companies have a licensing pool, and those licenses in the pool get assigned to users. And so that's the 3rd type of relationship that is managed. And then finally, we have facilities. A facility is meant to be like a location, so Los Angeles or Minneapolis for your facility there. And then facilities can have departments. So the types of departments that we support today are design, procurement, shop, and field teams. And so each of these facilities can have those departments, and users get mapped to those departments and the departments and facilities support projects. And so we understand what the workflow should be when something needs to flow to a shop user or someone else like that, for example. So this is a big part of the admin module, is managing the relationships between these 5 different object types and the different types of relationships that they can have. If we look at the interface framework, we have some common shared interface components like the header across the top and the nav bar in the left here. In this example, you see that we've pulled down the module selector, and we can open a module to populate our options in the interface. And when we select an option from the nav bar, it will populate an interface in these component panes. And this is an open and configurable system. So you can have an interface that's just a single component pane, single interface, or we can combine 2 or 3 or 4 different interfaces together. And these have a communication bus, so they're able to communicate across the different interface components. So we can visualize relationships or connections using isolating or highlighting, color coding, and other types of options like that. The interfaces are loaded up by the nav items, and so the nav item itself says, hey, load up a 2-component pane window, and then here's the 2 interfaces that I want you to populate in that. In the future, this is a system that you'll be able to extend as a customer as well. You'll be able to add your own nav items, choose different arrangements of our interface components, or even add your own. We're also about to release an onboarding overlay. So this should come out in the next 2 or 3 days. And this essentially walks the end user through the functionality of all the modules. And we'll continue to invest more and more in this onboarding overlay. And it ties together with our metrics capture. So for the first time in the desktop products and in the cloud products, we're capturing all of the user metrics in both of those in a named user way. And that's going to start to connect to nurturing campaigns. So based on the research we've done, we know that most of our users are not using a large percentage of the product. There's lots of parts in there that they just haven't got around to learning or using yet. And we'll start to check the metrics to see what people are learning. And we'll suggest training videos and other types of content for features that are not being used. Ultimately, we hope to be able to produce reports based on usage for company admins. So company admins can see which users are the most active, which ones are using certain functionality, which ones are not. And between our automated nurturing campaigns and internal training efforts, we hope to be able to level everybody up in a faster, easier way than what we've been able to support before. And we've got Alex Norris is one of our designers. She's on the call today as well. She's actually creating this onboarding interface and populating it for content. So she's going to be looking for questions that you have and that other people within your company have, so we can address it by quickly adding more content into these overlays to explain how the system works. Easier training. Again, on those modules, the module selector allows you to open a module. We have 2 now. There's going to be more in the future. And what opening a module does, the only thing it really does is it'll pull a license. It will populate the navbar content, and then when you click on the navbar content, it will open up component panes with interfaces preloaded into it. Opening a module does not control what data is loaded. That is controlled more by projects and by facilities. And now my monitor is starting to fail, of course, just when we start the webinar. Okay, I've got it back for now. Let's keep going. So again, modules load up the navbar and allow you to access different interface components in those component panes, but doesn't control the data that's loaded. I'll talk more about that in just a minute as well. We have a concept of your company. Your company's got company properties. where you fill in the address, your list of company admins. Admins have complete authority. They have full access to all data everywhere and full authority to add new users and grant them access to licenses or do anything else within the system. We will have several different types of admins. Company admins are one, they're the top level of admin. You'll also have project admins and department admins that will have restricted authority, but a full authority over project-related data or the department data, respectively. So you can invite as many different company admins as you want. Just be aware that you're granting full access and control to everything in the system when you do that. This is the same interface that you will use to assign licenses. So inside of this system, from the little hamburger menu here on the right, I can assign licenses. I can visualize which licenses have been assigned to a user, and if I want to unassign them, I can just pick the little trash can icon here, and they'll go away. Some of you are probably saying right now, wait a minute, I haven't seen that in my interface, and that's because part of this is not released. Right now, you see all the company members, and you do have the ability to add licenses to the user, but you don't see which licenses the user has, or you also don't have the ability to unassign those. So we know that was an urgent thing. We wanted to have it in the release as soon as it got out the door. It just didn't make it, but it's ready now. So we'll do another release probably this weekend, and then this interface will become available inside your modules as well. So again, it allows me to expand the user, see which licenses they have, and also to unassign a license. And then pretty soon we'll have an interface that reports on your entire license pool as well. So you can see how many you have total, how many are assigned, how many you have remaining for each one of those licenses. The company members really serves as a Rolodex for your company. So a list of all the members everywhere. If you're a project member or a department member, you are also a company member. This is the master Rolodex. And of course, some of you probably haven't even seen a Rolodex, so I included an image here. But that's what we're shooting for. This is a list of all the users. This is the main interface where you will assign licenses to them. And if they leave the company, this is the one place that you can deactivate them that will ripple through the entire system and affect all projects in all departments. And that's the interface. If you choose to add a license, it'll just give you the options on which licenses to add. You can tick the boxes here. It'll tell you how many are remaining at the time. There were some defects with the license reporting that we noticed in the previous release. Several of those have been fixed for this release that's about to ship as well. User properties. So also from the header, you can pop down the user properties and fill in your name. Check in and check out licenses, reset your password, and log out. Now, you won't have the two-factor authentication yet. It'll be a few months before we add that. By the way, we do have an entitlement system that at its core supports single sign-on, two-factor authentication, and other more sophisticated options. We just haven't exposed the interface to those things. If those are important to you, please let us know, and we'll try to bump those up on the priority list. Otherwise, it'll probably be a few months down the road before we're able to really get those turned on. You'll also notice that you have to fill in your name here, and you don't fill it in when you invite a user. We have taken an approach of requiring the minimum amount of data when you go to add a user or create a project or create other new types of objects. A lot of systems require that you fill out 30 fields to create something new. We've tried to avoid that and ask for the minimum amount of information up front, allow the user to go back and populate properties to fill in additional details over time. And so the user properties is the first example of that, to get the first name and the last name, other types of information like phone numbers and things like that in it. When you pick license, check in, check out, as I'm sure you know, we've switched to named user licenses right now. So you can access the products from any device. However, sometimes you need to go offline, and the named user licenses is only going to work when you can log in when you're connected. If you need to go to the site and the site has no connectivity at all, you can grab one of your product licenses and check it out for up to 30 days, and it will essentially switch to a machine license on your computer for that period of time. So it's removed you from the system. You can't also go in and log in on the web now, but you can run in an offline mode as long as you want with those Revit products, for example, mechanical and electrical. You can check those back in, and at that point it becomes a named user license that you can access on multiple devices again. So that's the intent around these systems. You can pick the licenses, choose the duration, and check it out. It'll automatically expire at the end of that duration, or you can check it in manually, and then those will return back to the named user pool. A bit about how we control access to the data. The system is pretty open now. We haven't put a lot of granular access control in there yet, but we are preparing for that. And one of the ways we'll restrict access is whether you're a project user or a department user. If you're a project user, you will have access to all the project data across all departments, but you won't see data from other projects, regardless of what departments it is in. If you are a department user, you'll see all the department-specific data across all projects, but you won't see any data from those projects related to other departments. It's possible for you to be both. You could be a member on one of the projects and two of the departments, and you would see a larger list of data. But it's determined by what you have opened at a time. So again, project users see everything related to the project, department users see everything related to the department, and you have the ability to be both. So how does the system know which role you're trying to fill at the time? And that is determined by what you have open in the header. So you'll notice a search drop down there. You can type in data to search or pick from a list of your facilities and your projects. If you open a facility, then you're in department mode. So now you're seeing everything related to the departments you're a member of in that facility. If you instead open a project, you are in project mode and you'll see everything related to the department. So again, picking the facility or the department, which will show up here in the header, is what controls what data is being loaded by the system. Selecting the module and choosing an item from the nav bar will open the interfaces, but the data that gets populated in the interfaces will be controlled by whether you have a facility or a project open. So a little bit complex, but it's the easiest way that we could find to really correctly show the right people, the right data, and to handle how data needs to get routed between team members and between departments to support a project. Now note, you will only see facilities and projects if you are a member of them. Not all of those restrictions are in place yet. Some of them are there. The rest will come over the next few weeks. But the intention is you only see a facility if you're a member of a department in that facility. You only see a project if you are a member of that project. Speaking of facilities, you'll see an interface. The one thing that you won't have right now is the ability to add photos. That'll be coming in a couple of weeks as well. And you don't have in the current release the ability to edit this. So you have a one-time interface where you can set all this data, but you can't edit it. That'll be fixed this weekend as well. You can come back into the hamburger menu, pop up the edit facility interface, which will look pretty much like this. And you can remove departments or add new departments if you didn't have one already, change the admin, change the name, address, all the other types of data. By the way, we have quite a few companies where the BIM department is centralized. So you might have BIM personnel or designers, detailers, other kind of personnel in 3 or 4 different locations, but they work as a combined team on projects. There is no problem with our system just picking one of these facilities and one of the design departments and making it your centralized design department and assigning everybody that is a designer to that department. Doesn't matter. It's going to be probably more relevant for shop and procurement and others. It is also relevant if your design teams are separated by region or by facility. But if they're not, again, no problem. Make one facility, one design department, assign everybody to a member of that. And in project settings, which we'll look at in a minute, project settings is where you point to which department supports a project. So you'll just point to that centralized design department for all projects, and then all members of the design department will be able to view all the projects. Oh, by the way, only company admins will be able to create facilities and edit those soon. I think it's unrestricted right now, but those restrictions will come into place pretty soon. Okay, so speaking of that projects list, the system that you have right now will show you all of the projects only if you are a member of that project. But this weekend, we will make the change, and you will see projects where you're a member of the project or projects where you're a member of a department assigned to the project. And so this was a change we made really when we figured out that we needed to better support the centralized BIM and design departments. This change allows you to see the list of projects either way. So again, you will see a project if you're a member of the project or a member of a department that is assigned to the project in project properties. And all users can create projects that will stay. It's intended to be pretty open from the ability to create projects. And if you create a project, of course, you can make yourself the project admin for that. Company admins will still be able to access it. But the person that creates it, until they add another admin, would have full control over who they invite to it. Project properties has the address information again, the project name, the project ID, and also a project type. So you can set it hospital or multifamily residential, whatever the type of the work is. And we can do analytics based on certain project types in the future. That's why we have that option there. The other important ones you will see is the ability to assign departments. So procurement, design, and shop, you can assign the department to there. You don't see field because field is a project user to begin with, but you do have the three department assignment options there, and that's going to control who sees the projects. We also have a similar project admin interface, so project admins have complete authority to invite new users to the system and see all the data in the project. Even in the future, when we add more granular access control, project admins will be able to see all of the project data, and so can company admins, of course, but other users can be restricted. And there's a privacy option, which is pretty lonely setting in this interface right now. There's going to be more options coming over time, but this is the first one. And this exists in company properties and also in project properties. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this. The only data that we're capturing right now is user metric related data. So we know who's using the system, what features are they using. And the intent of that is to help us do analytics to figure out what parts of the product need improvement the most, what parts we need to invest more in because it's popular with the user community, and also to drive these skill set improvement efforts, nurturing campaigns, reports to company admins, and stuff like that. Now, later on, this will also start to control publishing to data lakes and data warehouses, but we're not there yet, and you'll have control over whether that data goes to those systems or not. If you turn it off here, it only affects this one project. If you turn it off in company properties, it affects all projects everywhere. I would encourage you not to do that because it's going to break the nurturing campaigns to help up-level the skill sets of the users. And there's also a lot of functionality that will work in a more automated way if we have the analytics to drive the automation. So you'll gain efficiency over time by publishing that data. But if you have projects where you've got tight restrictions and no project-related data is allowed in the cloud, then you can turn that off at the project level. Okay, project members and department members works pretty much the same way as company members. It's just now you're limited to, you're only inviting people to that project or to that department. Now, you should know that when you invite someone to either a project or a department, if they're not already a company member, it will add them as a company member also. So everyone always goes into that list and then selectively into an individual project or an individual department for others. Something that is almost done that we'll release in the next few weeks. It won't be in this weekend, but I think probably 2 or 3 weeks from now, we'll release the message center. And that message center can host messages from us to users, from us to admins. We want to try to give admins more insight on what's coming up. So we're trying to lay the groundworks for a system to do that. Can also come from the system to the user. If there's a problem with the system, or something was started and not finished, or there's a request to change something, there can be system generated messages that have actions associated with them. Just by clicking on the action button, you can choose a resolution to that option. And also there'll be user-to-user messaging. That won't all be in this first one that we're about to come out with, but we will have the messages from eVolve will show up in this, and then over the next few months we'll start adding the other options as well. All of those will support actions directly embedded inside of them. And this will occur in 2 different places. By accessing the message center icon up here in the header, but also for urgent items, a ribbon will pop up over whatever interface you're using and show you urgent messages and actions associated with that as well. This was intended to be hidden. Some of you noticed that at full screen mode, it is hidden, but at some smaller screen sizes, this icon actually showed up before it was intended to. So that was a mistake on our part. Sorry for that. But it'll be fixed in the next 2 or 3 weeks when we actually turn on the underlying functionality that you see here. One last bit of detail before I turn it over to Adam is again to emphasize that we've really set this up as an open platform. It is microservices. You can use whatever part of this you want. You can replace it with your own components or even competitors' components, as long as the data flow is respected. They produce the same outputs and receive the same inputs. That's completely fine with us. We will be adding partner keys, which will give you access to those API functions, and will also support calling on behalf of API functions. And what that means is you can say, hey, this is the company name who's authorized to use the API, and here's my key for that. But I can also say I'm calling on behalf of Jane Doe, and I want to see the data that Jane Doe should be able to access. The interface is modular, so you can plug custom components into this environment. And we have a communication bus that allows, whether it's custom or internally developed interfaces, to communicate with each other, to highlight and isolate data based on relationships, things like that. Okay, with that, Adam, you ready?
Yeah, thanks, Clay.
Take it away.
So go ahead and jump into that first slide. So once you have ran the latest installer, what you find in our download site for 5.4, you run that and you fire up Revit for the first time. The first thing you're going to notice different is you're going to be asked to log in basically right away once Revit opens up. You'll see the login screen here. The username and password that you create is going to be the same email and password that you created to log into the Foresight system to begin with. That is an invite you'll receive from your company admin. So you'll enter it here, username, password. You might see at first a message that says you are not currently licensed. This has come up if you have not been assigned the entitlement to access Revit. So if you do see this error message, it is not because you don't have access to it from our end. You just have to contact your admin, let them know the entitlement has not been assigned, and that should be get you through that. If you do select the Keep Me Signed In, it'll sign you in automatically every time you open up Revit. So this is really intended to be kind of a one and done. As long as you stay online, you'll just automatically get logged in. Go ahead and jump to the next one. So once you start up Revit, fire up a project, you'll see all the way in the left ribbon, there's going to be a foresight panel. So this is going to be really the licensing piece, the connections to the foresight website. Any features that kind of will correspond with that are going to be found in that panel. So we have 3 icons there. The upper right one there is your user login. So that's going to have an indicator that shows whether you're logged in or not. Obviously green, good, red, bad. Red also can indicate that you're offline. So if you're in Revit and you click a button to try to use a feature and it doesn't work, you're not licensed. It'll just prompt you to log in. If you can use features, even though it's showing up red, it's letting you work offline. So we do allow being able to work offline, obviously because those scenarios happen. So that's what that means. But when you click on that user login, that initial display will tell you kind of what the situation is. The assigned project, which will be in the next slide, I'll go over that. In the bottom right is the message center, which Clay's mentioned will be coming soon, but you'll be able to also access that through Revit, and the indicator that you have messages will also be identified there when that's online. So go ahead and jump to the next one. So what you have noticed already, if you're on 5.4 and you open an existing project, it's going to ask you to assign a project. So the common question is, why are we assigning project? As Clay mentioned, the projects are supporting all of our web development. So you will be prompted, and when you go to this drop-down list there, that will show you or display all the projects that you have been assigned to. So again, if this is blank, what it means is there is no project that is created on Foresight that you have been a member of. So again, if you contact your admin or the project admin and you need to be assigned a project, that can be done from the website. Or we also allow you to create a project on the fly. What some users are doing today is creating one sample project and inviting all members to have access to that. And that's probably good practice anyway to do that, because you're always creating Revit projects that may not actually be real models. You're just drawing, making some sketches, things like that. So having that sample project available that you can just kind of push the model to just kind of keeps things moving forward. And after that, it's really work in Revit as you always have. So there's really not much impact from the Revit perspective. Again, it's just making sure you're logged in, making sure your Revit project has been assigned, and you are good to go to keep working. So back to you, Clay.
Adam, if I could jump in and add a couple of points there. So just like I talked about earlier, you can create a centralized department for design and assign everybody to that and assign that to all projects. Everybody's going to see the complete list in all systems. You can create that sample project and attach everything to it. There's no downside today in doing that. It would simplify your process a little bit. But as we start to extract data from the model, quantities, for example, to foreshadow a bit about what's coming, it'll separate those by project when you do that. So you could have multiple models contributing quantities to a single project. If you just create the sample project, that's not going to work right, because it's going to be munging together quantities from many different actual projects. But it's really easy to change. So as Adam showed you a minute ago, you can just go in there and map it to a different project later on. So if you want to use that centralized project concept now, I don't think there's any downside in doing so, and it's pretty easy to change in the near future when we have some more downstream functionality that'll take advantage of that. Adam, did I miss anything else that we should cover?
I don't think so. I think that covers it.
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about some upcoming stuff as well, and then we'll go to questions. And so 5.4 was released, I guess, I don't know, what was that, Adam, five weeks ago, something like that?
Yeah, about 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, we did a 5.4.1, and we started to add, delete, and edit a lot of the functionality because we were in such a hurry to get this thing to market because that license server was becoming very unhealthy. We had create and read functions, so you could view data, you could make new data, but you couldn't edit it or delete it. So we added a lot of those functionality back to the system in 0.1. 0.2 will extend that. It'll have that functionality to display the licenses per user. You'll be able to unassign licenses like we talked about. Edit facilities will be available, and that'll give you the ability to delete and add departments. Deleting a project will be possible. Displaying projects where a user is a member of a design department. So remember, today all we do is show you a list if you're a project member. With this upcoming release, we will show you still those same where you're a member of those projects, but also when the project's attached to a department that you're a member of, which solves that centralized BIM department issue. You'll get the training onboarding overlay that'll start walking the users through the functionality. That'll be tied to metrics, and will evolve, pun intended, that system a lot over the next 6 to 9 months to really try to make it much easier to level up all the users. There's quite a few defects that are being resolved in this issue as well. 2 to 3 weeks out, there'll be another release. Also have a chunk of defects and other improvements in it, but some of the notable things is message center, message ribbon, partner keys, the first few photo uploading options, users, facilities, and projects. Will also support trial and educational licenses. And you can expect another one 2 or 3 weeks after that where we polish up some more stuff. So I think in 6 weeks or so, we're going to have this in really good shape. I apologize for releasing it early. We would much rather have polished this stuff up and got it all done before we sent it out the door. But that licensing server was causing us so much concern. We shot it out a little bit earlier than we otherwise intended. We felt like the cure was not worse than the disease, but still it wasn't quite as polished as what we really want to have all of our future releases be. So with that, let me turn it over and take some questions.
Yeah, we got a few questions in the chat. So the first one that came in was, will educational sites have the same license?
Sorry, would you repeat that?
Will educational sites have the same license?
Yeah, Adam, you want to take that one? I'm not aware of us putting restrictions on that.
Yeah, it's just getting the educational seats onto the new system. So that'll be the 2 to 3 weeks out. We'll be able to take in educational seats as well as trials. So if anybody here is currently in trial, you're not yet on 5.4, that'll be coming in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, but once that educational license function is available, it'll be unrestricted. It's certainly unrestricted on the web functionality, and same for the Revit products, mechanical and electrical.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So Lauren asks, what is a nav item?
Okay. Let me share my screen again. Sorry for using some jargon there. Hold on. I have to get back to a place that shows that. Yes. Okay. Now we're there. Okay. So in this nav bar, this is our navigation bar. There's two types of objects. There's navigation groups that if you expand have a selection of navigation items in it. And so we, instead of saying navigation bar, navigation groups, and navigation items, we say nav bar and nav items for short form. And then what clicking one of these does is it'll choose an arrangement of component panes. This is a 2-component pane arrangement. It'll choose the size of those, like maybe one is 30%, the other is 70% of the screen, and it will populate it with an interface component so that it'll load up the interface. Let me know if that clarifies.
Okay, and the last question we have today is from Bo. Bo asks, will we be able to see who's currently has the licenses in future release? I'm running into a problem where I have no idea who has the license, and I need them to check it in so I can use it. Or I can disable it as admin so another worker can take over the license.
Yeah, let me go back to that part. Actually, I'll just, we talked about that a little bit, so I'm not sure if that was from before. But let me reiterate the thing there. With the current release, you cannot see what a license is assigned to a user, and you also cannot unassign those licenses. So that's obviously a huge problem. And that is being addressed in the release that'll come out this weekend, we believe. You'll be able to, in company members, expand a user and see which licenses you've assigned to them, and also to unassign it to those users if you need to.
Okay, well, that is all the questions we have. So thank you guys so much for presenting. You did a great job. If anyone has any questions for Claire, Adam, now would be, ask now. I think, oh, we got one more in. Okay. For 2019 projects that will not be updated, but still have most deliverables due, is there a plan to still have support for these projects or alternatives?
Yeah, the 2019 has become the bane of our existence, and I know many of you feel the same way out there. I know there's a lot of owners out there that have some long-running projects and have not allowed anybody to update. And it's painful for us to support it, but we've heard loud and clear from the users that you don't have a choice. Therefore, we don't have a choice either. And Adam, you want to talk about the upcoming patch?
Yeah, so starting next week, we'll be making 2019 available under the new licensing system. So you'll still have to run an update installer on 2019. It will not include any new features, but it will be on the new licensing system. So we'll be making that available next week. So please reach out to us, and we'll be contacting you as well. We know a lot of you have reached out to us already about 2019.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, it's not 5.4. It's still the older eVolve release, but it'll connect to the new licensing system, and I think we did patch a couple of defects that we're able to address there. Going forward, we're going to drop support more slowly. We will continue to support releases for a longer period of time because we see that trend of owners requiring it.
Thanks everyone for participating and joining our webinar this morning. We appreciate you spending your time with us and trust it was meaningful and impactful for your business. We look forward to seeing you on a future eVolve webinar. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.